In today's mega freezer meal marathon, we are going to be making over 140 freezer meals.
That's too many. That's too many. I don't think our freezers can take it. When we are planning 140, you know we're going to go way over our record.
Our record is 153, so stay tuned and see.
Of course we're going to go over our record. I'm going to have to buy a freezer for this one. How would you like to save a ton more money this year?
Dave Ramsey says that the average American spends $3,639 a year on eating out.
That's insane.
The number one reason people say that they eat out is because they don't feel like cooking.
Raise your hand if you don't feel like cooking.
And the number two reason is that eating out is more convenient.
Well, no kidding it is, but
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Today, we have a solution for you that is gonna make it so that you don't have to feel like cooking because the cooking's already done. Eating out isn't more convenient because that would mean you have to get in your vehicle and go somewhere, or you have to pick up the phone and order something, whereas this is already in your freezer.
It's already in your freezer.
Waiting for you. And it's probably going to be healthier and taste better than anything takeout, certainly. And even better than some restaurants.
Don't think that it's all just going to be casseroles and things that you're going to reheat. Oh no, no, no. There's a wide variety. Of course there's some reheat things because, you know, we need convenience too, but it really is just cooking like it's fresh.
I have been working on creating so many new recipes for you just for this mega session. For those of you that don't know, I'm Charla.
I'm Christy, and we're from Freezer Meals 101.
Christy and I are neighbors, and we have been getting together to make freezer meals for both of our families for over 12 years now. We do this every 3 months. And so for those of you who haven't seen one of these videos before, it gets a little crazy in here. Stick with us. We are going to walk you through step by step by step how we do these meals and how you can do this too. Now, normally we make so many recipes that we just tell you what goes in them and we don't give you the cooking instructions. This time we're changing it up a little bit and we are going to actually tell you the full thing. So what goes in the recipes and the cooking instructions, because we did a little poll in our Facebook group asking people what questions they wanted us to answer in this video. And one of the things that came up was from Mary, who asked if we could explain the process of thawing these and what we do to cook them up. And she asked for baby steps, please. I think that's common for a lot of you.
I think so.
So we're going to be popping in throughout the video to answer those questions we got from our Facebook group and to give you tips and tricks to make this process go faster for you and make this something you can actually do. Gabrielle asked us, when you do a mega session, how do you know which recipes to start with first?
That's actually a really good question because it might seem very random to you, but for us, it's a matter of necessity. It's a little bit calculated. Mostly it's because we have things in our freezer that we have to get out of our freezer so we can get more things back in our freezer, like frozen meatballs, or in our case today, frozen snapper.
Yes, we've got 2 or 3 recipes that we're using. We've tried to get cod, but for some reason
it was really unavailable.
It was unavailable. So we pivoted because you have to learn to do that. And we are using snapper today because that's what they had and that was what was on sale and it works.
We can enact one of our mottos, done is better than perfect. And this is one of those cases.
Done is definitely better than perfect. And so snapper replaces the cod, but we've got 6 bags of that in the freezer. And if we want room for the freezer meals, we need to get those out, get started with those. And then there's a few other things to consider, like we like to work with 1 protein at a time. We'll get more into that a little bit later in the video, but we determine what protein we're gonna start with, and part of that, in our case, is because some of the food is at Christy's house, so we're not gonna be picking that up until later or tomorrow because I don't have the fridge space to house all the food here. So
you have 2 fridges, I have 2 fridges, and they are both very, very full and smell like onions.
And we both have a cooler on the go with prepped ingredients in the cooler. Yeah, so that factors in as well. There are some buns that we got for cheeseburger sliders, which are coming up
I'm
soon.
really looking forward to those, to be honest.
And I don't want the buns to sit out a whole lot more because we got them 2 days ago. So that's gonna be after the snapper. So there's just those kind of decisions that go into this. We're gonna get started with the first recipe and you'll kind of see what we mean as we go. So I'm gonna start first with one of the snapper recipes so that we can get that frozen snapper out of the freezer. Into our freezer bags, we're going to put some what was supposed to be cod fillets, but this time is snapper. You can use any white fish. Then you're gonna add some minced garlic. We use garlic from a jar. We go through usually an entire jar on these big freezer meal mega session days. Then we're gonna add some unsalted butter that's melted, some olive oil, Cajun seasoning, and paprika. That is it. We're gonna squish this all together in the bag to just coat those fillets. We're going to get as much air as we possibly can out of the bag because when you're freezer cooking, air is what causes your freezer burn. And we're gonna get this into the freezer, and on the day you go to cook this, you're gonna allow it to thaw, and you are going to just put this on a foil-lined baking sheet and cook it at 400 for 12 to 15 minutes. If you want, you can garnish it with some fresh parsley and lemon slices. So both of these fish recipes are new to us. We will try them out and see how they are, and we'll let you guys know. This next one is, of course, a sheet pan meal because we love our sheet pan meals. Less dishes, easy cleanup, and an entire meal can usually be ready for you all at the same time. So for this one, we are adding into our large resealable freezer bags some snapper. Again, you could use cod or bassa or tilapia or any kind of white fish. Ours were previously frozen. You could use fresh or frozen. Then you're going to add some frozen green beans, Kalamata olives that are pitted, olive oil, lemon pepper seasoning, smoked paprika, salt, and pepper. You're gonna again squish that together in the bag, get as much air as you can out, seal the bag, and we're gonna put that one in the freezer. On the day we go to make this, we're gonna allow it to thaw, and then on our parchment paper lined cookie sheet, we're going to dump the bag contents and add a cup of baby or grape tomatoes. Bake that for just 15 or 20 minutes. It'll be done when the fish flakes, and I'm really looking forward to giving this one a try.
This recipe is cheeseburger sliders. It is the first time we have made this recipe and I'm really excited about it, and I'll tell you a secret. We made it our first day because this was the first recipe I made. It was there, it was available, and my family was at home and needed to eat. So when I ran them home, I just threw this one in the oven for everybody. And then what's extra nice about that is because we're making them in pans, I had more room in my freezer because I only had to put one pan in and not two. So there was a method to my madness, but I did get a good review on these, so pay close attention. You are gonna wanna make them. Starting out, we're going to add our ground beef to a large bowl. We're going to add in minced garlic, some minced onion, some Worcestershire sauce, and salt and pepper. We're gonna mix it around really well in the bowl. Then we are going to have a second bowl. We're going to add in our mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard, just like a real cheeseburger. We're gonna mix those around. Then we're going to cut our buns. Now, to do ours, I lay it flat on the board, then I cut it lengthways with a bread knife and get it flipped into the pan, so just the bottom part is in the pan and the lid, if you will, is in the top part. And then we're going to take that mayonnaise mixture and spread it evenly on all of those open buns. Then we're going to take a bit of shredded cheese and sprinkle it right onto the bottom part of the buns. Then we're going to evenly spread the beef part, that mixture with the onions. Then we're going to top it with pickles because this is cheeseburger sliders. And if it doesn't have pickles on it, I don't think it's really a cheeseburger, is it? And then we are going to sprinkle more cheese and we're going to put the lid right back on the buns. And then the best part, if you ask my opinion, besides maybe the pickles and the cheese and the beef and the mayo, is we're going to add on some melted butter and sprinkle it with everything bagel seasoning. And this is a homemade recipe of everything bagel seasoning. And then we're going to throw a couple of sheets of tin foil on there, give it a label, and that's it, into your freezer. On the day of cooking, I really recommend that you defrost this one, thaw it properly first. Straight into your oven at 375. We are going to start out with the foil on, and then when it's mostly done, you can take it off and let that butter crisp that sucker up.
This is another new sheet pan meal. It is our pork tenderloin sheet pan. Into our large freezer bag, we're going to put some pork tenderloin. Now, if you can't fit it easily, you might want to cut it in half just to fit it more easily into the bag. Then you can add some carrots that are peeled and cut into big chunks, an onion cut in chunks, some salt, pepper, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, melted honey, and some finely chopped rosemary. We're gonna again get all the air that we can out of the bag, squish it together to combine it, and get that in the freezer. On the day we go to make this, this is going to be a complete meal. We're gonna thaw it, and then we're gonna dump our bag contents onto a parchment paper lined cookie sheet. You're gonna add 2 or 3 cups of baby potatoes that are cut in half. Then you're gonna stir that just to coat those potatoes. Bake this at 350 for 45 to 50 minutes. And then you're gonna let it rest a little bit and then slice that pork. Now, I have to tell you guys that between when we made these freezer meals and when I'm filming this part with my voice, we have actually tried this meal. It was one of those ones that I was really excited to give a try and see if it worked. We had only made 2 bags, one for me and one for Christy, just in case it didn't turn out, because we didn't want to waste, buying the pork and then not having it work out. But I can report that this one is a keeper. Our family really enjoyed it. It was different, it was hearty, and it was one of those things where the entire dinner was ready at the same time. It was all laid out on that sheet pan, as you can see. And so I'm just excited to report that a few of these meals already we know are winners, and that's always exciting. This next one is our Dr. Pepper pulled pork. It is a classic for us, always good. I am purposely making this one this time because we've got a ski trip coming up and I want to bring it for the crock pot just to throw in so that when everybody is out off the hill, they can enjoy these pulled pork sandwiches. So into our bag, we've got our pork shoulder or butt roast, then a coarsely chopped onion, a jar of chipotle peppers in adobo sauce, some brown sugar, salt, and pepper, and then you're gonna add the Dr. Pepper. Now, it's 2 cans of Dr. Pepper, but we discovered this time that actually if you use one of these larger bottles of Dr. Pepper, that is the equivalent of 2 cans. So it makes it a little bit easier. And one of the things you're gonna notice is is that you do have to add the Dr. Pepper slowly because you do get all those bubbles and it will foam up and out of your bag if you're not careful. So you just slowly add that. And then the other thing to note about this recipe is that you're gonna wanna wait just a few seconds, but a little bit before you close that bag, because you want to allow some of those bubbles to disappear so that you're not getting extra air in your bag with the bubbles. And then you're going to get this one in the freezer. On the day you go to make this, you throw it in the Instant Pot or the slow cooker and then shred it when it's done. You serve it on buns with some coleslaw and garlic mayo. It is just so delicious. I can't even tell you how much we love this recipe.
This barbecue meatloaf with the sauce on it is definitely one of our family favorites. We've been eating it for years and years and years. And a few years ago, maybe a couple of mega sessions ago, we made it for Charlotte's family, and surprise, surprise, her family loves it too. She just never made it. She's not a beef eater, and so she's like, my family doesn't like meatloaf, but they do. And this is a really, really good one. Start out with our ground beef raw in our bowl. We're gonna add in breadcrumbs, graham wafer crumbs, some evaporated milk, some minced onion, a couple of beaten eggs, salt and pepper, and some dry onion soup mix. And mix that all up right in the bowl with my hands, and then you can transfer it into your large freezer bag and seal that up. Then in a second bowl, we're gonna mix together some ketchup, brown sugar, dry mustard, and a little bit of chili sauce. Mix that up, add it to the medium-sized bag, so that's your quart-size bag, and then we are going to seal that up and staple those two together. Make sure you staple above the line because we don't want holes in our bags. On the day of cooking, you're going to thaw this, and then you can transfer that large bag right into an 8x8 pan. Now, you could do this in a loaf pan. Just over the years, I've come to prefer the 8x8 pan. It seems to cook a little more evenly, and it's still just as nice when you go to cut it. So we're gonna put it in the pan, and then we're gonna put that barbecue sauce from the medium bag right on top of it, and then we're gonna put it in the oven. We cook it for about an hour at 350. You wanna check it and make sure that it is cooked all the way through, and let it set for a few minutes and let all those juices mingle, and then you slice this up. Our family is a meat and potatoes family, so if I served this with anything other than potatoes, I think it would be really weird, but you could have it with whatever you want. You can find the recipe for this one and all of our other tried and true recipes, the ones that we have like put through their paces, in the description below. Some of them are in the club and some of them are on our regular website. The others you'll have to wait and see.
We said we were gonna pop in and answer some of those questions from our Facebook group. So the first one comes from Han. How long does all this prep take?
Let me tell you, it takes a long time. We used to crunch it all into one day. We used to like do our shopping in the morning, do all the prep for the remainder of the day. And we split it up kind of by job, and we've done it for so many years that we do it, this is just our job now. So at my house, I brown ground beef, I chop all the onions. I don't know how I got that job, but I got that job. That's okay. And I shred the cheese if it isn't already. In the last couple of mega sessions, I've started to prep the chicken ahead of time, which really just means trimming the chicken. It's a lot of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. In this one, we are planning to make 24 meals. So that was 12 trays from Costco. We've changed it up a little bit. So now we do our shop and start our prep, and then we finish our prep on the next day. Then we do assembly. So now we're on assembly day.
For my part, it's kind of similar story. Shop and then prep, but I have help. I now hire my daughter, who is in culinary arts, so she's very fast at chopping, to do some of my prep for me. Now, I did brown my sausage and helped her with making the sausage meatballs, but she did all the cooked cube chicken.
Oh, good.
She did all the vegetables. We have a lot of vegetables this time, which is awesome, but it's more prep. So she did all of that for me, and part of the reason is it's a great way for her to be able to make some money. You can get your kids to do it for free, but this is a lot that I'm asking her to do, and it's just nice for her to be able to earn money that way. For me, I have other work pertaining to our system. So I actually was doing some of that work while she was doing prep, and then I came in and helped her finish off. And it was a bit of a longer prep time this time, because we like to say, you know, to work with one protein at a time, and that saves you a lot of time. It also saves you a lot of time doing your prep. But because I'm trying to create new recipes, we've got one recipe using ground chicken. That is not a smart use of your time. You should be, if you're gonna do ground chicken, brown a whole bunch of it and then make a whole bunch of recipes using that. And usually that's the system we go by. But this time we've got some seafood, we've got some ground sausage, we've got some sausage meatballs. Normally I would do those in separate mega sessions.
Right.
But I'm really focused right now on creating new recipes. And some of that meant that we're taking the time to prep a whole bunch of different ingredients. So this is a really long answer just to say that we do shopping and prep one day, or shopping one day, prep the next, and then assembly. Part of prep is doing your shopping list, your prep list, and, you know, getting your groceries. For me, that takes forever. Like, we haven't even talked about how long that takes, but it's a big job. I'm choosing the recipes. In my case, I'm inventing some of the recipes, and that takes research and time. And then I'm taking those recipes and I'm creating this draft shopping list, which is really ugly. I'll show it to you here. And it's got tally marks for, like, how many minced onions, how many diced onions, how many
pounds of ground beef.
Totally. Yeah. And it's a mess. And then I take that list and I transfer it to a list for Christy for Costco and the bulk store, and sometimes odds and sods, which
I ended up at the liquor store this time, and at a completely different grocery store that specializes in international foods.
Yes, and then I do the 15% off day at our local grocery store, so I've got a list for that. But you can save yourself that prep time if you are in our Freezer Meals 101 club. Then all you do is you create your own meal plan using recipes that we already have tested for you. So you know that they freeze well and they thaw and they cook up and they taste amazing. You pick whatever recipes you want. You can filter by different proteins or different dietary needs. And then you choose those, make your meal plan, choose how many of each you want to make, because you can change the serving sizes, and it spits out your shopping list and your prep list. So that part's done for you, and it also creates your printable labels with the cooking instructions. So yay for that.
Yay, because that is part of the prep, and that's part of my job too. You guys all have these fancy labels in the club. When we are doing ours and they are brand new, I am using them from the recipe that Charlotte gives me. I'm adding it and I'm making my own labels every time, which is really, really important because it saves you from having to write on the bag, and it saves your hand from cramping. And as we mentioned before, we're on our way to making over 140 meals. I would like to do that at a touch of a button. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is a very long, drawn-out answer to say that even though prep takes a lot of time, once your prep is done, it makes it so much faster to assemble the meals.
Totally. And one other recommendation I'm going to give you, like, listen, you're not all going to start making 140 freezer meals in one shot.
Please don't.
Please don't. If you're going to start small, start by doubling your meals. But if you're going to, like, branch out and do a week's worth or 2 weeks worth, I'm going to recommend to you to make your prep one day and do your assembly the next day. It does get tiring, and we have a remarkable number of people that have, disabilities, that they can really only manage to do certain things on some days, so that on those really tough days, it's already there and it's prepared for them. By doing your ground beef one day and letting it sit in your fridge overnight, it's going to be nice and cool when you go and put it in your bags the next day. And so you'd have that break in between. If you're going to do 2 weeks worth or more, I would say split it up into 2 days.
This next one is hamburger Hoobie soup. We recently did a video of ground beef recipes, and you can check that out if you're interested in a whole lot of ground beef fun. But we talk about this recipe and why it's called hamburger Hoobie soup in that video. And the short version is it was my brother's friend's family growing up, and they called tomatoes Hoobies. So into your large freezer bag for this Hoobie soup, you're going to add some ground beef that is browned and cooled. Now, when we do our freezer meals, we of course do our prep ahead, and so the ground beef is already cooked. But what we'll do is we'll leave a 1 cup measuring scoop in the ground beefs so that we can save time, and because 1 pound of ground beef is about 2 1/3, 2 1/2, 2 2/3, it depends who you ask, but 2 and a bit cups of that cooked ground beef. So that allows us to just really easily measure it out into each bag. Into our bag, we're going to add that browned ground beef, some diced onion, peeled and chopped carrots. Now you could add celery, but I'm allergic, so we skip that. Diced tomatoes, condensed tomato soup, barley, a bay leaf, parsley, thyme, and pepper. We're gonna again get the air out of the bag, seal it. You want to make a note on the bag or have it on the label that on the day of cooking you're going to need an additional 2 cups of water and some beef broth. We're not adding that now because of course making this many meals at one time, space is of a premium in our freezer and we want our bags to be as thin as possible. This one is cooked up on the stove top or in the slow cooker. It's one of those ones that is best if it's simmered for longer. So it's a great one if you've got winter sports to do or you're gonna be out for the day to just come back and enjoy a nice hearty soup. So for the chili, we're gonna do it a little bit differently today than we usually do. We're gonna start out with 4 bags, and into some of those bags I have some Mexican veggie beef that is pre-cooked, and in the other I have regular ground beef. We're gonna add into each bag some chopped onion, minced garlic, kidney beans, you don't need to rinse or drain those, some chili style beans, again with the liquid, diced tomatoes, tomato paste, chili powder, cumin, paprika, pepper, and my secret ingredient, maple syrup. Then we're going to get the air out of each of those bags and get those in the freezer. Now we're going to do this process again, but we're going to mix it all together in a large bowl. We're gonna make the equivalent of 2 more recipes, so doubling the original recipe, in a bowl, and then we're gonna divide that out into 5 medium bags. Reason for that is that at Christy's house, some of her family are not as big a fans of chili as she is. So this way she can have those for lunches for herself. She can have them for dinner if the rest of her family is eating something else or whatever. And it's also a great opportunity for us to show you how if you're making individual freezer meals or freezer meals for 2, you can easily adapt our recipes and do that. So into the bowl, we've again got our ground beef, onion, garlic, kidney beans, chili style beans, diced tomatoes, tomato paste, chili powder, cumin, paprika, pepper, and that magic maple syrup. Then we're gonna stir it all around and divide it into quart size freezer bags, being sure of course to get as much air as we can out. And these will be perfect for Christy to enjoy while her family looks on, not quite in envy because they're not chili fans, but you know. We are on to the confessional portion of this video because we tend to be real with you guys and let you know that not everything goes as smoothly as we intend to, but this one is an issue we haven't really encountered before.
You know, neither of us are like super great with technology, and I can honestly say, like, this wasn't my fault.
No, it was not.
It wasn't my fault, but it did happen to me. You know, for the general filming, for the face-on stuff, Charlotte has these fancy cameras, but when we do our overheads, we just use our phones. And for years, honestly, we did everything with just our phones. They've been reliable and we've worked our way through what works best for us. And so this year for Black Friday, I thought, you know, the new Google Pixel 8 is out. I'm gonna get the one with the large capacity because we do so much filming and some of our overheads are like really big files. So I sprung for the big new Pixel. Up until the filming of this, it had been actually a pretty good phone. And it wasn't until, you know, we filmed on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, things started to go south and it shut off on me. And then I spent the rest of my evening trying to figure out how to turn it back on, how to get it going. I Googled, my husband was helping me, we YouTubed things, we did all the things, and I could never turn it back on. And so the last step was to do a factory reset. But all of the footage that I had taken on the Thursday and Friday, only one thing had backed up, and that was the cheeseburger sliders, which was the first recipe that I made. So then Sunday morning, I had to send a very tear-filled email to Charla and be like,
And I was like, well, it's okay because you can take it in and can retrieve the videos.
And I'm like, nope, I wiped it. Because up until that time, it had always backed up. I run Google Photos, it was always there, it was never a problem. But this time it was a problem and all of those videos were gone. So we did a bit of brainstorming. Because we've been doing videos for quite a while, we have a lot of overhead footage. And so it was one of those of, have we made this one before? Can we use footage of, say, you know, Jamaican jerk chicken that you'll see later? Yes, we've made that before. I don't have to remake it. But there were other things that were brand new recipes that we have never filmed before, and I had to redo them. So we did 156.
But
really
is 166.
I had to do 10 more. Now, it wasn't in the same time frame. I had to reshop, I had to re-prep, and it was a lot.
It was sad.
It was sad. I was a wreck.
The truth is that we really did make 156 meals. Like sometimes you'll see one bag of a recipe where we made 4, and in the chicken Parmesan one, we made 6.
I had
and
made
you'll
6.
See one. And really, actually 7, I guess, in the end. And there's one that we didn't realize until later because we had written it on a scrap of paper, so that one didn't get made at all. But these things happen. Like, this is life and it's real life, and we share other parts of real life with you, and so we're sharing the technical difficulties of running a YouTube channel. Charla was incredibly gracious, as she normally is, and you know, things could be worse. Like our kids could be sick, or you know, there's accidents, there's bad things happening in the world. Me losing a few files wasn't the end of the world, but it was a pretty big deal after all that work. Well, it was especially, I think, hard because the chicken Parmesan had taken so long.
3 hours start to finish to do that. It was a lot.
And so it's the exhaustion of after you finish doing freezer meals, it's so nice to not have to cook again for so long. So I think like mustering up the like not wanting, but having to cook
right
after you were like so done with cooking.
I was so done, and even having to go back and reshop, and how expensive things were when I had to buy one at a time.
Right.
Like I had to rebuy salmon, and it was like expensive.
It's way more expensive to do single meals than to buy in bulk.
Yes, and so it was, you know, that much more out of pocket. It was that much more like a huge chunk out of my pride. So you can't hear it. Obviously, we do voiceovers when we talk about meals, but I announce what I'm making so that when we do the editing. But I would say, this is my meatloaf of shame, or I would say,
this is my redemption salmon.
This is my redemption salmon. So we did end up having a bit of like, if you can't cry, you just laugh, right? So
it's just, I mean, it also was a brand new phone, so there's
a brand new phone.
So here we are. Enjoy the rest of the video, but do it with the knowledge that, don't tell us in the comments below, why is there only 1 and you said you made 4? We really did make 4, actually now 5, or 6, actually now 7.
Yeah.
Our freezers really are that full. We just don't quite have the exact footage, so.
It's just redo footage. This is our world famous red sauce. It is a club exclusive and we make a huge batch of it because we use it in many of our recipes. And really, it is just throwing stuff in a pot. So let's get started. We start out with our tomato paste. We're going to add in really hot water and mix that together so it is nice and soupy. We're going to add in some parsley, a bit of minced onion, minced garlic, a little bit of sugar, salt, basil, thyme, a lot of tomato sauce, and a lot of diced tomatoes. We're going to get out the biggest spoon that we have to mix it in the biggest bowl that we have, and that is our red sauce. We are going to use this for multiple things throughout this. If you have any left over, which sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, it is really nice to throw into a quart-sized freezer bag, and it's good for pasta sauce. It's nice as pizza sauce. Actually, it's so good as pizza sauce. It's nice for dipping. It's nice for all the things. This is definitely one reason alone that you should join the club. This hamburger pasta casserole is the first one that we are using the red sauce with. And then I didn't have it on my camera, so I had to redo this one. So I had to use pasta sauce the second time. So it's very sad because it's going to be so much better with the red sauce. We still get to eat it, you just don't get to see it. And for that, I'm really sorry. So we start out with our rotini that we have cooked ahead of time. Now here's the thing with pasta. If you are going to freeze your pasta in your freezer meal, you want to cook it, you know how in the box it'll say al dente 10 minutes. You want to cook it less than that. 1 to 2 minutes less. So I give it a good 8 minutes and then I get it out of there and I run cold water over it so that it stops cooking, because it's going to get cooked again later and that's how pasta gets mushy. So we're going to have our undercooked pasta, and I have it in the bag here. I add in the ground beef that's been browned and cooled. We add in the diced onion and some minced garlic, and then I realize, oh wait, this should have been done in a bowl and I'm not going to have enough room. So you can see me transfer it into a bowl, and then we pick up where we left off with the recipe, where you add in some frozen mixed vegetables, your choice, whatever you like for a mixed vegetable. Charlotte picked these because she is allergic to broccoli, and often vegetable mixes have the broccoli in it, so this one does not. We're going to add in our pasta sauce or red sauce if we have it, and a bit of tomato paste, some Worcestershire sauce, some oregano, some basil, and salt and pepper. We're going to mix it around and we're going to get it right into our large freezer bag. We're going to take some shredded mozzarella cheese and some shredded cheddar cheese and put them into a medium-sized bag. We're going to seal all those up and staple them together and get them in the freezer. When you go to cook this, you are going to let it thaw. You're going to add it to a casserole dish and sprinkle those cheeses right on top. We're going to cook it for 15 to 18 minutes. This is under 30 minutes. This has vegetables. This is a full meal. And with the red sauce especially, it is so delicious, but I know the pasta sauce will be good too.
Hey, I got a confession. Been losing all momentum. Just because it's easy, but that don't make it better. I wanna dig my hands deep down in the dirt, take a walk along the street if I'm feeling dessert. All of this convenience just doesn't work for me. I wanna play with fire, let me get hurt. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Oh, I miss the summers with you and never swipe left to right. I snuck in your window, no friend request, no, just spent the night. I had to walk right up to your locker and risk you saying, boy, just don't bother. I know this all just makes me sound ancient.
Next, we're gonna do some taco meat. Again, some of these bags I'm using a Mexican veggie beef in, and some of them I'm using ground beef. That's because we do mostly veggie beef at our house. So we're gonna add that beef or version of beef, and then some finely chopped onion, Taco seasoning, it's 4 tablespoons or a packet if you prefer to buy the packets. Then some tomato sauce, chili sauce, and here's where we depart from your usual taco meat recipes. We add some shredded cheddar cheese into ours. It makes it nice and creamy and it's just really good. We got that suggestion from the Big Cook cookbook. Then we're going to mix all that together, get those sealed, and we've got 4 more meals done.
So chicken Parmesan is something that we honestly don't make a whole lot because there are a lot of steps and it is a big job to do. So this is definitely something that when you decide to do it, you want to make a lot of them. So we have planned to make 6 of these, and then I lost the footage, so I had to make a 7th. The part that I'm the saddest about is that I can't show you me pounding the chicken flat, so I will tell you about it because in the original video I did show you. So what you do, if you've never done this before, is you lay down a sheet of plastic wrap, you put your chicken breast on it, and then you lay another layer of plastic wrap over top. And you can use a meat tenderizer for this. We don't have one. I don't have one. Charlotte doesn't have one. So we just use a kitchen pot. I have really nice stainless steel pots and I use the smallest one. I bang it until it is flat. And then what's nice is because of the plastic wrap, you don't have chicken bits flying all over because honestly, that's what happens. That's what happened to me before I learned the trick about the plastic wrap. And it prevents a lot of the cross-contamination that you're going to have in your kitchen from your pot, and bits might touch here and there, but massively your cleanup is much better, much easier because of the plastic wrap. And then you can just pick them up and put them in a tray until you are ready to use them. So when it was time to prepare these chicken breasts, after they had been pounded, I set up a plate with flour, a plate with egg, and a bowl that had some breadcrumbs in it. So you dredge your chicken breast into the flour, then into the egg, and then into your breadcrumbs. Then we lay it onto a cookie sheet that has some parchment paper on it. And we do this. We had 4 chicken breasts the second time around. The first time I had 24 chicken breasts. And it took a huge chunk of time out of my freezer meal activity because it took me about 3 hours to pound all of the chicken, to dredge them all. Then we had to freeze them. So once I have them onto my cookie sheet, I will put them into the freezer. We're gonna let them freeze solid. And the reason for doing this is so that they don't stick together in the bag once they are frozen. Once they're frozen solid, we add them into our large size freezer bag. We're going to add the red sauce into one smaller bag and some sliced mozzarella cheese in another. If you have shredded mozzarella, that would be okay to use too. In fact, when I make these at home, I often buy the Quattro Italiano, and it's got different kinds of Italian cheeses in it, and I like to use that. So that works. The slices look great. They works really well too. We're gonna staple all those together and get them back in the freezer. On the day of cooking, you do want to thaw it. I did make these right away. So you're gonna cook these 375 for about 20 minutes. Then you're gonna take them out, add in that red sauce on each of them, put it back in, let it cook for another 10 minutes. Take it out, add your cheese to it. It could be the sprinkled cheese, it could be the sliced cheese, it doesn't matter. Back in and let that cheese get melty, and these are done. Ideally, you would want to serve this with pasta with more red sauce, and you'll be so glad that you did all the work to have these, especially when you do 6 at a time.
We wanted to stop and take time to answer a few more questions. These are similar questions, so I'll ask both of them and then we'll answer it together.
I like that.
So Trisha asks, when doing a mega session, would you suggest doing less types of meals and more bags of each? Or maybe sticking with one protein type, chicken or beef, one time and the other next time? Diana, who is a new member of the Freezer Meals 101 Club, asks, do you find it easier to do the same protein or do you mix it up? Not sure if it would be best to start with dump meals or create a meal plan. So we've kind of touched on this answer already, but when we do our mega sessions, we definitely do one protein at a time. It's way faster that way. We used to kind of change things up. Like, oh, I'm sick of doing chicken.
Yeah.
I'll do some ground beef now. But then you have to put the chicken away in the fridge, take out the ground beef. Like, it's an extra step and you risk cross-contamination. Like, so many reasons to just stick with the one that you're doing. It might be more boring, but it's way more efficient.
Yes, it's way faster. It's way more efficient.
And the other thing is, of course, it is so much faster to do less meals and more bags of each. So like this time we're doing 6 of the chicken parmesans. That's because they take longer. They're a bit of a more involved recipe. So if we're gonna be doing all that work, we might as well do more of it, because we're not gonna be making that recipe every 3 months. We might make it once a year. So we wanna get more out of it. But also, like when we do our corn chowder, we'll make 8 at a time and each go home with 4. And it's so fast. You've got all the ingredients out, everything is prepped, you line your bags up. You can see in the videos how we have all of our bags open and set up, and we just throw things into each bag. It's so much faster.
It is so much faster, and when you are doing a mega session, it's important to have variety. We're doing over 100 meals. We can't do all beef, of course, and then the next time do all chicken, because we need to eat these over the next 3 months. We need to have a variety or I will get divorced. And so if you're doing a smaller amount, yes, go ahead and catch that sale.
They had a 2-for-1 on beef stir fry.
Of course we're going to do.
What are we going to do?
Of course we're going to. So, and if you catch the wicked sale on chicken, go ahead and do that. And if you do it a little bit more regularly, then you are going to have the same amount of variety in your freezer that we do. We're only doing it every 3 months, but we have mega variety because it's a mega session.
I know that some of the people in our Freezer Meals 101 club or in our Facebook group, they will hit the sales and then do all ground beef recipes 1 week, and they'll maybe make, 10, 12. Again, not 10, 12 different recipes, but they'll maybe make 5 recipes and double each of them.
Right.
And end up with 10. And then the next week or 2 weeks later, when chicken or pork is on sale, they'll make those meals. And then by the end of the month, you've got lots of variety, lots to choose from. Your family isn't like chicken again.
No, it's totally true. And as to what was her name? Diana, who wanted to know, should we start with dump recipes or make a meal plan? You could do both. You can make a meal plan of dump recipes. Dump recipes are easy because they're dump recipes. They involve your protein, they involve opening a bunch of cans, you dump them in, and they are done. But you could do that in a meal plan. We have some meal plans that are already done for you. So a lot of those are in the club library, and you can grab those, and those include our chicken dump or beef dump digital cookbooks, and those have meal plans where you can get 10 meals, 5 recipes, 2 of each, done in like 15 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. It is amazing and fast, and if you want somewhere to start where you feel that sense of accomplishment when you open your freezer, start with dump meals. Absolutely. Because then once you've experienced that freedom, you're gonna wanna do this again and again and again. And you'll get to the point where you build your confidence up, and then you're ready to go and create your own meal plan and pick and choose the recipes that you love. Right.
And then do it. And then it's not gonna take you 15 minutes to do 10 meals. It might take you an hour. It might take you 2 hours, including your prep, depending on how complicated the recipes are. Then you're more motivated because you've experienced having those meals in your freezer and like the freedom that comes with not having to think about it.
That's right. And if you're thinking, yeah, but I don't know how to chop an onion. Do you know what? There's a club video library in our club as well. And we literally go over how to brown ground beef, how to cook your chicken, how to chop an onion, and it's all in there. And it's on YouTube. I mean, you can Google just about anything. So go ahead and branch out and throw an onion in there. You can do it.
For our spaghetti sauce, we are actually using that red sauce that Christy made. So this is so easy to put together because a lot of the ingredients are already mixed in the red sauce. We've got our ground beef or veggie beef in our freezer bags. Then we're gonna add chopped onion, some green pepper, minced garlic, and that red sauce. That's it. We're going to get the air out of the bags, seal it. Now, of course, on the day you go to cook this, you thaw it and you can heat it just the way you would spaghetti sauce. So you can do it in your slow cooker, you can do it on the stove top, you could do it in the microwave, I suppose, and then you're gonna serve it on top of spaghetti noodles. We're done with the ground beef meals that we had planned, but we do have some ground beef left, so we're gonna throw that back in the fridge and tonight, after we finish our day one, I will do a little bit of research and planning, and tomorrow I will invent some recipes with the rest of the ground beef. We knew that we were gonna have some left over because of the way that it all worked out with the amounts when Christy was buying them, but this will be fun. So now that I'm done with the ground beef, I'm gonna do a few vegetarian recipes and then move on to another protein. So the first vegetarian one that I'm going to do is our sweet potato soup. We love this recipe, came up with it in the fall and have been kind of obsessed with it since. So into our large freezer bag, we're gonna add some sweet potatoes that are peeled and diced, some diced onions. This one calls for 2 onions, so you're gonna be pretty generous here with your onions. Some minced garlic. Again, you could add celery if you weren't allergic, but we're not gonna add celery to ours. Some diced red pepper, olive oil, paprika, turmeric, cinnamon, cayenne, a bay leaf, drained chickpeas, soy sauce, diced tomatoes, and you can either add your vegetable broth into the bag, or you can make a note on the bag to add it on the day of cooking. You're gonna get the air out and seal it, get it into the freezer, and we are done for more recipes. On the day you go to make this, you thaw it, and of course you can cook it in the slow cooker or in a stovetop pot. You could serve this one with some crusty bread or biscuits. I have just had it on its own because for me, soup can be on its own, whereas Christy prefers to have it with some kind of a carb. This Tuscan gnocchi sheet pan meal is a new one to us. We've been really enjoying doing gnocchi meals in the last year or so and have found some real winners with that. So hopefully this will join that club. It is so simple, very few ingredients, but I think it's gonna be delicious. Into our bag, we're gonna add some potato gnocchi. We're using the fresh gnocchi that you can find in your grocery store over by where they sell the fresh pastas. Then some sliced sun-dried tomatoes, olive oil, salt and pepper. So this is just a 5 ingredients or less recipe. We're gonna get that into the freezer, and on the day you go to make this, it does get a little healthier because once you thaw it and put it on your baking sheet, you're gonna bake it at 400 for 20 minutes, and then you're going to stir in 2 cups of baby spinach and bake for 3 more minutes just to allow that spinach to wilt a bit. And I think this one will be, I would top this one with Parmesan cheese, but I think it's gonna be interesting. These barbecue chicken sloppy joes are the only recipe we've got using our ground chicken. So when I was prepping that and cooking it up, what I did is just separate it right out into 4 freezer bags because then they are ready to go. It saves a bowl, it saves a step, and just makes things a lot faster on the day we're going to assemble it, which is now. So into those bags that already have the ground chicken, we're gonna add some diced onion, chopped bell pepper, barbecue sauce, and tomato sauce. This one is so easy, so fast, and it's also a nice thin bag, so it cooks up really quickly on the day you go to serve it. And if you forget to take out a meal that day, it thaws really quickly. So you can just heat this up in a skillet, and you're gonna serve this on hamburger buns. Okay, so some more questions for you. Laura asks, for something like the Cajun sheet pan meal, after you thaw it and are preparing to cook it on the parchment paper, do you dump the juice from the bag onto the sheet pan?
I do. Unless it says reserve it and add it later as a sauce or something, I do.
We love sheet pan meals, as we've established today, because we're making even more. We already have a lot in our repertoire. That's because secretly, maybe I guess now not so secretly, I'm working on doing like a mega sheet pan video. And so I need a lot of sheet pan recipes.
There are a lot of sheet pans coming your way, folks.
That are like tried and true. We have 1 or 2 sheet pan recipes where in the instructions, like you were saying, it says like, just off the top of my head, the beef and broccoli
Right.
says to reserve the sauce and then add cornstarch and then add it back later. But most of them, yeah, you just dump everything right out. It couldn't be easier, and get that into your oven. Of course, less dishes and all the things, but yeah, the juices just help it to be seasoned, to help it not to dry out.
There's no rules here. It's
Done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. This is how it says to cook it, but if you don't like the juice in it, don't put the juice from the bag in it. It's okay.
This question is sort of similar-ish, and it is from Camille, who's wondering about the best way for spices to not stick to the sides and bottom of the bag. So what Camille is talking about is in some of the recipes, when you have a lot of seasonings, especially, and you go to dump it, let's say, into your crock pot, you find that some of those seasonings are like on the bag, and you're thinking like, do I need to add more seasonings into the crock pot? Have I lost the seasonings here? And you could add more seasonings if you want. You could add more into the bag in the first place if you're afraid of losing them. But also, you can flip your bag inside out and just take a spatula or a spoon and scrape it all down. You can get every last drop out of the bag if that matters to you.
I have never once thought of that as a problem, and I have never once scraped anything out of the inside of my bag, and everything tastes just fine, so you do you.
I like things spicy, so I don't like to lose my spices. So sometimes I will take a spoon and like just go in there and...
I mean, I like olives, so I have like on a bag to try to get the olive out of the bag, or a little chunk of tomato or something, but I don't think it's ever bothered me with spices. Interesting.
I find there's some recipes that do that more than others. I think it's like if there's oil in it and it kind of sticks in, the seasonings are in the oil then, and then it sticks.
I will tell you, sometimes when it is like, say like the lemon pepper chicken, for example, one of my all-time favorites, sometimes I will put in the oil and the lemon juice and mix that around first so all the chicken gets coated. So that when I put the spices in and then I close the bag and mix it around, it can evenly get all over the chicken. Yeah, it gets on the bag too, but it does evenly get on the chicken. And that way, when I go to cook it, I know that it's been properly spiced and I feel okay about it. But yeah, I probably leave a lot in the bag and it doesn't bother me at all.
So our answer is you do you.
For both of these questions, really.
Because really, we each do it differently, and that's okay. And one of the things we hope that you're getting out of seeing this video is that nothing has to be perfect, and if you're missing an ingredient, you can substitute or you can leave it out. I mean, if you're missing your protein, then you're gonna have to be a little more creative, but you know, in general. And if things don't work exactly right, as you've heard, when we went to get our groceries, things didn't go quite perfectly, so we had to adapt and pivot. And
we pivoted.
That's okay.
And we're gonna have a new kind of salmon because I couldn't find red pepper jelly. Yay.
So there you go. This next one is another new one to us, and of course it is a sheet pan experiment because we're trying to find as many new sheet pan recipes as we can that are amazing. It is the Hawaiian chicken sheet pan meal, and because it is the only recipe that uses raw cubed chicken, when we were prepping, we just went ahead and put those into the freezer bags as well. So we're starting off with our raw cubed chicken in the bags, and we're adding some coarsely chopped red, orange, and yellow peppers, some coarsely chopped purple onion, and carrots that are also in pretty big chunks, some minced garlic, thick teriyaki sauce, and pineapple juice. We're gonna get that all mixed together in the bag. We're gonna seal it and get that into the freezer. Now, on the day you go to make this, you're gonna thaw it. You're gonna spread the contents of the bag out on a baking sheet. You can put parchment paper or foil on the sheet if you wanna make it easier to clean. Then you're going to cook it for 20 minutes at 350, and then add a can of drained pineapple chunks and bake it for another 10 to 20 minutes. You want that chicken to reach an internal temperature of 165, and hopefully this one will be a keeper. Okay, I just have to pop in super, super fast because I'm not sure if you saw this or not in that Facebook thread where we were asking for comments. I put a photo of one of our last mega session, which I'll pop it right up there. It was 129 freezer meals, so it was kind of mini for us. Not mini, but like it was not near our record. It was one of our smaller
It was very
ones ever.
planned on purpose to be small.
Yes, which Christy prefers.
I really do.
So that was the photo that I used of my beautiful freezer, which at the end we're going to show you this.
It'll look like that
beautiful
again.
freezer. There was somebody in that thread.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, I do
her
know what you're
name was
talking
Deborah,
about. Yeah.
And she said, "My freezer wants to be your freezer when it grows up." It was like my favorite comment of the day.
That is very
Made
cute.
me so happy. So anyway, we're gonna get back to making my freezer look like that again because I want to be #freezer goals. I'm super excited to try this new recipe. It is a one-pot skillet lasagna. We have a lasagna soup that is one of our best recipes in my opinion. And so I've taken some of the seasonings from that soup and added them into this recipe when I was making it. So I know it's gonna be good, or at least I strongly suspect it's gonna be good. Now you could make this with ground beef, but we are making it with ground sausage because that's what we prefer in the lasagna soup recipe. So we've got that, which is browned and cooled, in our bags. Then we're gonna add some minced garlic, minced onion, salt, pepper, oregano, basil, rosemary. I'm adding fennel into my bags, but not into Christy's because she doesn't love it. And that's the great thing about freezer meals is that you can adapt them to what you like or your dietary needs, and there's really no right or wrong way. Well, except when it comes to things like getting the air out of your bags. Then some crushed tomatoes, and we're gonna squish that together in the bag. And then in a quart size medium freezer bag, we're gonna add some ricotta cheese, Parmesan, and shredded mozzarella. And then we're going to staple the small bag to the large bag above the seal so that when you go to make this, you'll have everything that you need other than the pasta. When you make this, you're gonna thaw it. You're gonna add 4 cups of water. You can do this in a large stovetop pot or a really deep, large skillet. And then you're just gonna stir some small pasta noodles. Maybe shells would be good, or cavatappi, bow tie, something like that. And you're gonna just cook the pasta up right in the sauce. It's gonna absorb some of the flavors, and you are dirtying less dishes because you don't need a strainer and an extra pot for that pasta. So that's my favorite thing about one-pot meals. When it's all done, you're gonna top it with the cheeses from that quart-size bag and cover it so that the cheese can melt, and serve it right away.
This Salisbury steak is one of the ones that I had to do a remake of. And it's okay because I'd already made it. It actually went pretty fast for me. One of the nice parts about getting the opportunity, that's what I'm gonna call this, an opportunity to do a redo, is that when we first had made them, we realized that we hadn't picked up any pans. And this is something that just felt like it was important to put it into a pan, and then you put the gravy over, and then you put the foil on. And we didn't have a single 8x8 pan in the house that was like a foil pan that we would be okay with, losing access to for the next couple of months or 6 weeks or whatever while it's in your freezer. So I did them in bags, and honestly, they did look kind of sad. So I'm saving you the of having to see that, because this time I had a pan and they are looking much better. Start it with our ground beef in the bowl. We're gonna add in panko breadcrumbs, minced garlic, Italian seasoning, 1 beaten egg, some ketchup, Dijon mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and salt and pepper. And like I said, I do like to get in there with my hands and get it done. You can use a spoon, you can use a spatula, you can put gloves on if that makes you a little bit queasy to do it with your hands. Just get it nice and mixed together. We're going to make these into 4 equal-sized patties that are oval-shaped, and you can see my magic measuring in the bowl by just, sticking my hands down there and saying, oh, that's half, and oh, that's quartered. So that's how I measured this. They are not fancy. I didn't get out a scale for this. And I made my patties and got them into the frying pan. We're going to fry them on each side for 5 to 7 minutes. Meanwhile, in another bowl, mix together some mushroom soup, some evaporated milk, and a little bit of pepper and a blob of the beef bouillon powder, just to give it a little bit extra oomph and make it a nice gravy. So then once my little Salisbury steaks are done, I'm gonna put them in my fancy foil 8x8 pan because I had a redo and I had an opportunity to get to the store and buy one. And then we are going to smother it with that gravy that we just made in the bowl. Then we cover it with our tin foil and get it into our freezer. On the day of cooking, you can do this a couple of different ways. You can just pop it right into your oven, 30 or 40 minutes, let it get nice and hot, and that's definitely something you want to have with some rice or some mashed potatoes that you can use that extra gravy on. Or you can do this in a skillet, quick and easy, and get it onto the table very fast for your family. We are at the end of day 1.
We took on the most difficult recipes today because we've learned our lesson in the past that you don't want to leave your really hard recipes to day 2 because that's when you're really tired. So we took on the challenging recipes today. The biggest one Christy took on, which was the chicken Parmesan.
It was monstrous.
So
there were other big ones. The sliders were big and the meatloaf was big.
And
I'm not saying you took the easy route.
No, but the pasta.
Oh, I had to cook
we had
pasta.
to cook pasta.
It was finicky.
So today was not like dump and go meals, but tomorrow, which
dump and go,
is going to be in this same video, so don't worry. You just stick around. You'll see. They are dump and go and fast, and tomorrow we are hoping to like fly through. But we have quite a task because we did not get halfway today. We're going to show you where we did get.
And it's not awful. You're still going to be a little bit jealous because this isn't your freezer. Here.
We have finished 70 recipes. Or 7, not recipes. Oh my goodness, that would be...
That would be insane. That would be an all different kind of record.
Yeah, we've done 70 meals. Tomorrow, which again will just be in this same video, we are going to tackle... we're going to show you the mess of the kitchen because we're real like that. Very big disclaimer. Usually my mom does dishes with us and she opens cans and she runs around and like goes through the pantry and finds things for us. She's amazing and the Energizer Bunny. But today she was here for probably an hour or 2 in the morning. But then she had to leave to go and get the baby. And she has been watching the baby for us, which is like an even bigger help than doing dishes. But as a result, it's bad. And this is like, I tried to stay on top of it, but like those are all dishes to do. So the night for me is not quite over yet. But anyway, the kitchen is bad. This is real life. We're not pleased with our number because we've hit way bigger numbers on day 1, but we're super pleased with what we got done, and we had a great visit, and it was fun.
It was good.
So we're gonna see you in the morning, which is right now. We have already started on day 2, and we're very ambitious this time. Even though we're ambitious, we are optimistic.
Oh, completely. We've banged it out before where, yesterday we didn't feel great about our numbers. It felt like it took us a long time to get rolling because we made the big things, right? Like the chicken Parmesan, the meatloaf, and those buns even, the sliders took a long time. I did serve them for lunch to my family and it was a huge hit. Like I asked the girls last night, her daughter was at my house last night when I went home, and I'm like, girls, how was lunch? And they're like, oh, it was so amazing. You need to make that again.
For a lot of these recipes, it's our first time making them, and so we ask our families for reviews afterwards, and then a couple weeks after this video goes up, we usually do a video for club members only where we tell them like what our families thought, what we thought, and we're really brutally honest. Like the last mega session that we did, my family nicknamed the Nasty Goring Nasty Goring.
Which might tell you something about it.
We are going to do that again this time, except we're going to do it on a live for club members only, because that way there's a little bit more interaction and they can ask us questions. And so, but that will be coming, you know, maybe a month after this video, once we've had a chance to let both of our families try as many of the new recipes as possible. And the reason it's so long this time is because we are doing more new recipes than we have ever done before.
Yes.
Ever.
Charla's creative brain has been cooking some things up, pun totally intended, and that is the wonderful thing about the club, because she's got that palate. I don't know if you know this or if you've watched us before, but she has the palate that chefs want you to have so that you can taste the difference between the different kinds of peppers that I didn't know there was a difference. And that's why we have her, and I'm here for like labor and star power. No, I don't know about that. But they are good recipes, and you should be glad that we are the guinea pigs. Because we try them out, we freezer mealize them, we test them, we freeze them, we cook them, and then our families are the guinea pigs, and they give us the feedback. And sometimes it's nasty goring, and sometimes it's cheeseburger sliders, like you need to make that again. In our Facebook group lately, there has been a new club member, a shout out to Carrie, because she has been giving awesome reviews of what her family, every time she makes something new that it's from the club, that's from Freezer Meals 101, she comes back into the Facebook group and she's like, my husband said this, my mother-in-law said this, my kids said this.
My daughter's boyfriend said this and then took the leftovers to work the next day.
And so far,
fans.
They've all been hits. You know, they're good recipes. Don't just trust us. Don't just trust Carrie. Try them for yourselves and let us know how you like them.
So yesterday, we managed to get finished our raw chicken, ground chicken,
most of our ground beef,
some of the sausage meatball recipes, and quite a few of our vegetarian recipes. So we're off to a really good start. Today we're going to be doing the rest of our ground beef, our cooked cube chicken, our chicken thighs, our raw chicken thighs, and we're going to be doing our salmon. Now, we had and our shrimp, but...
Yeah, all the seafood. Well, not all the seafood. You did some yesterday.
We had an incident with salmon. It was a communication
communication issue.
Okay, see, what happens is Christy does the Costco shop. I do our local grocery store shop. I think we were talking about that yesterday. And so on Christy's list that I give her for Costco, I tell her for the chicken thighs that I need, let's say, 6. So 6 doesn't mean 6 trays of chicken thighs. It means 6
recipes,
which is 4 meals each. So it's 24.
Yes, but a tray at Costco will make 2 meals. So I need 12 trays. Do you see? Do you follow with the chicken math? And at Costco, if you buy in multiples of 6, you can go, and I don't know if you've ever done this or if you know this, you can go bang on the window and talk to the butcher department and say, I would like a case of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and they will get it for you and they will reduce the price because it's case lotted. And so you save about 50 cents a kilo, but that adds up when you have, you know, each tray is about 4 kilos. So it really adds up. That's $2 a tray. I'll take the savings.
And so on the list, and I've been doing this forever, I just write
6 recipes.
And for the salmon, I wrote 2 or 4 depending on the price, because salmon's been really expensive lately. So it was sort of like, see when you get there. I trust you to use your judgment.
There have been times where I've got there and every tray of salmon is like $40 and that's all that's left. And I'm like, that is a heck of a price to pay. Like, we're in Alberta, it's landlocked, seafood is expensive here, full stop. So sometimes, you know, they have smaller cuts, it's a little bit cheaper. And so really it is a judgment call on my part. You know, if she wants 2, then I would buy 8 because that's 2 recipes. She says 4, then I would buy 16 because that's going to be 4 recipes.
Except I didn't mean recipes.
She meant 2 trays or 4 trays, depending on the price of. So I bought 8 because I'm like, 16, that's a little excessive. Really, I will own my part, because if I had really read, she always sends me the list for the labels. I make the labels. She sends me the list and tells me how many labels of each to make. If I'd have seen that we were only making one recipe of salmon and registered that it says 2 or 4, depending on the price of salmon, and correlated that to my grocery list, we would have had 2 or 4, depending on the price of salmon. But now we have 8.
So the good news is that you're going to be getting a few different recipes of salmon today, because we have 8 trays of salmon, and it's going to be great. And we only have the ingredients to make the sauce of 2 for the one that we were originally going to make. So we're going to just make a bunch. And we do have some
We've got a lot of salmon
awesome
recipes.
salmon recipes.
It's like bacon. You can't have too much salmon.
And salmon's healthy for you. It's got
It's
those
good.
omegas.
Yeah, it does.
So we're going to be doing a lot today. And the reason that we have extra ground beef is because with the ground beef math,
She needed 35 pounds, and they came in the tubes, and so if I bought 5 tubes, I would have 34 pounds. Just the way it worked out. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I still have to go to one more grocery store to get that some of the other stuff that I couldn't find. I'll just buy a pound of ground beef. But we were talking. You should see what our texts look like going back and forth. We talk a lot on shop day, that's for sure. And so we just decided, get an extra tube, we'll figure out something to do with the ground beef. But then that's another like extra 5 pounds of ground beef, which really shouldn't be a problem, other than we already have 140 meals planned plus the extra salmon.
there was a little bit, when I separated out the snapper, there was enough to make 1 extra bag. And so they're like here and there. And then at the end, I always invent some recipes with whatever we have left over. So we knew there were going to be more than 140 meals anyway. We'll see. Stay tuned today, because we're going to see if we're going to hit that record. And we will also be sharing some more of those questions from our Facebook group. So with that leftover ground beef from yesterday, we're going to make 2 different recipes and 4 of each one. So we're going to end up with 8 more meals. The first is a Korean ground beef rice bowl. We're going to add some ground beef into our bags, and then minced garlic, minced ginger, some low sodium soy sauce, honey, sesame oil, and red pepper flakes. You're going to mix that all together. On the day you go to make this, you are going to heat it in a skillet and then thicken it with cornstarch, or create a cornstarch slurry and stir that in. You're going to serve this on rice, and you can sprinkle it with some fresh green onions. And with the end of our ground beef, we're going to make a curried ground beef. I'm interested to see what this is going to be like. We've got our ground beef, then minced onion, minced garlic, Madras curry paste, cinnamon, turmeric, minced ginger, again just from that squeezy tube, some diced tomatoes, diced carrots, which we also had left over, which is why I chose to make this recipe, some frozen peas, and we always have those in the freezer, salt, and pepper. When you go to serve this, you can heat it up in a skillet. It'll be ready really quickly because the beef is already cooked, and then you're going to serve it with rice or naan.
Seafood curry is one of my all-time favorites. We have been making this for many, many years, which is really helpful because when I lost my footage, we already had plenty of footage from our years of making it that we could use in its place. So I'm sorry you have to look at old footage here, but the process is the same and it tastes just as good whether it's old footage or new footage. So this is how you make it. You start out in one smaller bag, your quart-sized bag. You're going to add in some shrimp and your scallops. Now at Charla's house, she is the only one that likes scallops. So she says, Christy, only give me 1 scallop. And I say, Charla, I don't need all these scallops. You can have more than 1. So sometimes I give her 3. In another bag, we are going to add in some thinly sliced onion, some sliced mushrooms, some sun-dried tomatoes that have been drained and chopped, a little bit of curry powder, some pineapple juice, cream of mushroom soup, evaporated milk, and that's it. We're going to zip that freezer bag up and mix it around in the bag, saving ourselves a bowl. Let out that excess air. We're going to staple the 2 bags together and get that into your freezer. On the day of cooking, you want to cook up, we like to have ours with penne, and in fact, There are times, like in the early days, we used to make this with the penne right into the bag and have this kind of as a one and done meal, but to make a thinner bag, we have omitted the pasta and we cook it fresh on the day of cooking. So you want to let this be thawed. In a large skillet, you're going to add in the large bag contents and let that just come up to a nice boil, give it a good 10 minutes, and then you're going to add in the scallops and the shrimp. They're going to cook up pretty fast, right? So it's really only going to be another 8 to 10 minutes for that max. And then you can add in your pasta to that, or you can add this as a sauce onto your pasta. Either way is good. Seafood curry pasta is the bomb.
We already have a sheet pan chicken fajitas and sheet pan shrimp fajitas. Both are so good. I say so good all the time. And why not throw another one into the mix? So we are trying today a new recipe, which is for steak sheet pan fajitas. These ones are more just beef sheet pan because I could not find the steak that it called for. So we're just using beef strips in here. That also made it easier because they were already cut. So into our bags, we're gonna add our beef strips, then some sliced green pepper, red pepper, yellow pepper, some onions that are sliced, minced garlic, olive oil, lime juice, chili powder, cumin, paprika, salt, and pepper. We're gonna get that all mixed together, get the air out, seal it, and this is also a pretty nice thin bag, which makes it take up less space in the freezer, which we really care about when we're making this many meals. On the day you go to cook this, you thaw it and cook it up on a baking sheet for just 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Then you're gonna serve it with your favorite fajita toppings on flour tortillas. Since we've got our beef strips out, we're gonna move on to the Mongolian beef. We're gonna have those beef strips in our bag with some ginger from a squeezy tube, some minced garlic, soy sauce, water, brown sugar, carrots that are cut into matchsticks, but we just buy them already cut like that because it saves a step when we're doing our prep, and some sliced green onions. Again, we're gonna get the air out. We're gonna kind of squish it together to mix it in the bag and not have to dirty a bowl, and get that into the freezer. On the day you go to make this, you are going to heat it in a skillet once it's thawed, and you're gonna whisk a tablespoon of cornstarch into the sauce as it cooks to help thicken it up. This is gonna cook up in 3 to 5 minutes. So if you're really short for time, you can also serve this with minute rice. So literally in 5 minutes, your entire meal can be made and served.
Shrimp Gnocchi, this was a new one for us. We are trying to add more seafood recipes, and I was excited to see this one come across. In one bag, we're going to add our jumbo shrimp. We're going to add in a bit of salt and pepper, some oregano, dill, red pepper flakes, minced garlic, and a splash of olive oil. We're going to seal that bag up and mix it around. Because there's not a lot of liquid in there, you really got to mix to make sure that the spices coat evenly over all of your shrimp. You get all that extra air out and seal that up. In another bag, we used another large size bag for this because there's actually quite a bit of sauce that goes in with it. We're going to add in some chopped purple onion, some diced tomatoes that have been partially drained, some lemon juice, some Kalamata olives that are pitted, and more oregano and dill. We're gonna mix that around, seal that one up, and staple these bags together and back into the freezer. We use frozen shrimp for this. You can use fresh shrimp if you would prefer, but it is hard to find here, and so we just buy it frozen, we process it quickly and get it back into the freezer before it thaws. On the day of cooking, you're going to let that tomato mixture come to a boil on your stove, and then you're going to reduce your heat and simmer for 15 minutes. Then you're going to add your shrimp and cook it for another 5 to 7 minutes. This is something that you want to top with some feta and some fresh herbs like some chopped mint and some parsley. And we will see how this one goes because I haven't had a chance to try it yet.
So back to the Facebook questions. Naomi was wondering about the freezability of recipes, and we have a great solution.
We do. We have this awesome cheat sheet. It's called What Freezes, What Doesn't, and How to Freeze It. And it's got everything you need to know about what freezes, what doesn't, and how you should freeze it. We have dairy, eggs, and meat. It's 3 pages because there's a lot of info here. Nuts, fruits, and vegetables. Baked goods and other for the miscellaneous things that you're like, can I freeze it? Maybe.
So we have actually just updated this recently because over the years we've discovered, like since we first made it, we've discovered more adaptability. Some things that we thought you couldn't freeze, we decided that we would actually experiment.
So for Naomi and anybody else who is wondering, you can go to a link below in the description to find the cheat sheet about what freezes and what doesn't.
And it's free.
And it's
Just
free.
so you know. So grab that.
A lot of people ask us, why don't you blanch your vegetables? Because it does talk about in here, like if I was harvesting my garden carrots and I was going to freeze those, absolutely I would blanch them. It will preserve your texture and preserve your color. And so that's a nice thing to have, especially if it's going to be on its own. When we throw vegetables into something, there's often a sauce there, and they seem to do better when they're in a sauce. And are you making over 140 freezer meals? We are. So do we have time to blanch everything? No, we don't.
And we've found like some things, zucchini is a good example because we recently tried to do some roasted root vegetables. Zucchini was something that we threw in there. I know it's not a root vegetable, but anyway, it was in with the other actual root vegetables. And, you know, it just, because it wasn't in a sauce, it didn't hold up and it was mushy and gross. We have, when I have garden zucchini, I have blanched it or shredded it and frozen it shredded because it does great because then it's in its juices. With that, it was like, we freeze zucchini all the time and it's great. Why is
did
it
this?
Gross?
Yeah.
It's because it's not in the sauce. So if you see us today just throwing carrots in raw without blanching, it's because when they're in the actual recipe,
They seem to work really well.
Yeah, they're good.
The other thing that we will often do is we'll use vegetables that are already frozen. They've already been processed. They were blanched when they were flash frozen. Well, maybe they were blanched, maybe they weren't, but they've already been like somewhat processed. So by the time we get them, they can be frozen again. Like we just throw them the frozen corn in or the frozen peas or the frozen mixed vegetables and get it back in the freezer and it works out perfectly fine.
And potatoes is something we get a question about a lot. So we'll just address that right here. Potatoes in general do not freeze if they're raw. There's really no exception.
They can turn black, they'll go mealy, they go watery. They're not nice.
You can use frozen potatoes, so a tater tot or a hash brown that are frozen, or fries, I guess. Those are great, and we will often use them. We're not using them this session, but we have. We cook mashed potatoes or twice baked potatoes and freeze those, and they're great because they're cooked ahead. Don't throw raw potatoes into anything. There's a few recipes here where, you know, it's a sheet pan meal and we might put potatoes on the day of cooking.
Yeah.
That's fine. You don't want to learn the hard way.
And I have had people say, like in the Facebook group, I freeze potatoes all the time and I don't have a problem with it. You are a unicorn, because that's very lucky for you, because, you know, typically there are some kind of problems with it. Now we are going to have our mini salmon marathon because we had all that more salmon that we intended to, but it's translated into some really great recipes here, so I don't mind that at all. This red pepper glazed salmon, you start with 4 salmon fillets. We're going to mix together in a small bowl some red pepper jelly, a lot of smoked paprika, and some red pepper flakes. You mix and mix and mix, and then you can add it in on top of your salmon fillets. Mix it around so it coats it evenly, and then get that excess air out and seal it up. On the day of cooking, you want to take your thawed salmon fillets and put them on a sheet with some parchment paper or some foil. This is something you want to just bake at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. Salmon is cooked when it flakes easily with a fork. Barbecue salmon is a great one to obviously put on your barbecue, but you can do this one in the oven, and it's actually pretty good in the air fryer too. If you've never cooked salmon in the air fryer, It is nice. You have to really space it out. You have to kind of do it in batches sometimes because, you know, air fryers, they're picky that way. But man, you can cook a salmon fillet in like 10 minutes or less and it crisps up. And if you have salmon with the skin on, oh my goodness, it is so good like that. A little hard to flip in the air fryer sometimes, depending on your air fryer, but it is a really good one. And this is a great one for your air fryer. Into our bag, we have our salmon fillets. You can add in your favorite barbecue sauce. We're going to also add in some brown sugar, a bit of sliced green onion, and a bit of salt and pepper. We're going to mix that around right in the bag because we are not doing dishes for this one. We're going to seal up the bag and get it into our freezer. On the day of cooking, like I said, into the air fryer, or it's great on the barbecue. You could do the whole cedar plank business, or you can do it in your oven if it is winter and you are not going to be using your barbecue that day. This one is Holly's ginger maple salmon, and I apologize. I did not get a chance to do a redo of this one. I didn't realize it was missing, and I had already bought the salmon and I was done, and so we just agreed that you're going to have to use your imagination for this one because I'm showing you other salmon recipes. It shouldn't be that big of a stretch, and I'll tell you what we're going to put in it. On top of our salmon, we are going to add some fresh ginger, some garlic, some soy sauce, some maple syrup, and some lemon juice. You're going to mix that together right in your bag on top of your salmon. Seal up your bag and get it into your freezer. Just like the other salmons, on the day of cooking, you're going to put this on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven anywhere from 350 to 400, cook it for 20 minutes, and when it flakes easily with a fork, you know it's cooked. We haven't tried this one yet as a freezer meal, but we know it's going to be good because Charlotte was able to try it at her friend's house and immediately thought, oh, this is going to make a great freezer meal. So we already know that it has been taste approved by Charlotte.
Now that we're done with our beef strips, we're gonna move on to some sausage recipes. We've got some Italian sausage that we have taken out of the casing in our prep and made it into little meatballs. So we baked those on cookie sheets and they are all ready to go. Christy's family prefers the mild and our family does the spicy ones. So we did those separately, and I just remember which bags are hers and which bags are mine. I haven't gotten it wrong yet that I know of, but they might be in for a surprise if I do. So this first one is our tortellini sausage skillet. I purposely chose this recipe because we've got that ski trip coming up and it's such a hearty one. So I'm gonna bring it with us on that. You're gonna add your cooled sausage meatballs into your freezer bags, and then you're gonna add some diced green, yellow, and red peppers, some sliced mushrooms, diced onion, pasta sauce, but today, of course, we are using the red sauce. And then you're gonna add your cheese tortellini. Now, this is a pretty big one, so it's one that sometimes we decide to mix together in a bowl before we transfer it into a bag. But either way works. This one is great because on the day you go to cook this, you just add half a cup of water and it's a one pot. That tortellini cooks up right in the sauce and you don't need to dirty any more pots. And it is a full meal because you've got your protein, you've got your carb, you've got your vegetables. Everything is right here. You've even got some dairy with the cheese filling. So this is a really good one. With those sausage meatballs, we're gonna make our Italian sausage pasta sauce, but because I hadn't originally planned to make it, we have run out of green peppers, so we're just gonna skip over that. Now, I could make a note on the bag and we could add them on the day of cooking, but really I'm gonna skip that because this has salsa and salsa has green peppers in it already. So we're gonna add those meatballs into the bag and then some salsa, diced onion, minced garlic, and capers. That's it, that's everything, and some more meals are going into that freezer. This one just gets heated up in a skillet and served over your favorite pasta.
The sweet sriracha salmon is also a club recipe. Again, we start out with our salmon fillets, and we are going to make the sauce for it in a bowl. We're going to add in some olive oil, some honey, some minced ginger from the squeezy tube. Somebody on YouTube said, since you call it garlic in a jar jarlic, maybe you could call squeezy tube ginger squinger. So I don't think I'll adopt that, but I think it's really cute. We're going to add our squinger and our garlic, some lime juice, some sriracha, cilantro, and some salt and pepper. We're going to mix that up together and coat our salmon with it right in the bag. We're going to close that up and freeze it. On the day of cooking, this is one that is actually pretty versatile because it would be nice in the oven. You could do this one on the barbecue, and this one would also be a good one to try out in your air fryer if you are so inclined.
Mulligatawny soup is one that I have been wanting to make for a really long time as a freezer meal. There was this little tiny soup and sandwich place that was walking distance from one of the houses that we lived in when our kids were really little. And they would have a different soup every day, and once in a while they would have mulligatawny, and I would hear about it that like this is the day they have mulligatawny, and I would pack our kids up in the stroller and go there specifically so that I could have this soup. So I'm hoping that our version does it justice, and we'll have to see. Into our large freezer bag, we're gonna add some chopped onion, diced carrot, a seeded and diced jalapeno. Now, I did seed the one that's going into Christie's. I left the seeds and membrane in the jalapeno that's going into the one for our family because we do like things spicy, and that's where the spice comes from in a jalapeno. Then some minced garlic, minced ginger, again, just from the squeezy tube, some Granny Smith apples that are cored and diced, but we've left the peel on, diced tomatoes, curry powder, cumin, paprika, cinnamon, turmeric, cardamom, thyme, red lentils, and salt and pepper. It's a really pretty bag in my opinion because it's got all those nice colors. We've got that in the freezer now, and on the day we go to make this, we're gonna thaw it, bring it to a boil, and then you're gonna turn the heat down, simmer it for 30 minutes, and then if you want, you can put it through an immersion blender. You can put just half through and leave half chunky. You can leave it all chunky. It's totally up to you. And then you're going to stir in just a bit of unsweetened coconut milk. Now, Christy is not that big a fan of coconut milk, so we try to avoid coconut recipes, but once in a while I'll throw one in, and she always tastes it just to be a good sport. And sometimes she's found that she actually likes them, and other times it is a definite no. So we'll let you know what she thinks of this one.
This is slow cooker chicken with red peppers, although you can use whatever kind of peppers you want, because the first time I did this, we were out of red peppers and I made it with orange peppers. But since I had the opportunity to do a redo, I did it with red peppers. Into your bag, you have your chicken thighs. You're going to add in your red peppers, or whatever kind you like that have been sliced, a sliced onion, some minced garlic, some olive oil, and some red pepper flakes, a bit of salt and pepper, and you're done. You're going to mix it around in there to make sure the spices coat everything, and seal your bag up and get it into the freezer. On the day of cooking, you do want to thaw this and get it into your slow cooker. Cook it on low for 4 to 6 hours. Now, Charla has had a chance to have this one with her family, and her family did like it. A few people in her family felt compelled to put some hot sauce on it because they are a spicy family, more than our family. But the chicken was so tender. She wasn't sure if it was supposed to be shredded or not, and it just fell apart. So it's a shredded dish by the time you're done.
If this is your first time joining us for one of our mega sessions, then I suggest that at the end of this video that you go watch our last mega session, because on day 2 of that mega session, we give a little bit of a story as to how we came up with this shakshuka recipe, as well as why we wanted so badly to try it. But we have been making it ever since, and even though we just made it in that mega session, we are making it again with we had made 2 versions in that mega session. We have narrowed it down to the version that we prefer, And this is it. So into our freezer bags, we are adding 2 cans of fire roasted tomatoes, diced onion, minced garlic, again just from a jar, some sliced roasted red peppers, sliced banana peppers, smoked paprika, chili powder, cumin, and parsley. That's it. That's done. On the day you go to make this, you thaw it, and oddly enough, you're going to add eggs into this. So you're going to simmer it in your stovetop skillet, and then once it's cooked for a little bit and simmered, it's gonna reduce down. So some of that liquid is going to go away magically. There's some kind of cooking science to that, but anyway. And then you're gonna make little wells in this mixture, and you're going to crack an egg into each of those wells, and then you can salt and pepper those if you like, and cover it, and those will just cook right up in there. You can cook them to whatever doneness you like, so if you like to have a runny egg, you can go ahead and do that. And then if you want, you can sprinkle some feta cheese and fresh parsley on this, and you can serve it with crusty bread to scoop up that tomatoey goodness. It is so good. It can be a breakfast dish, a brunch dish, an appetizer, or a dinner. Another question we got was from Leilani, and she said, my bags always stick to each other. I wipe them down before placing. What am I doing wrong? One of the things that she was talking about even in the question is wiping it down before placing. That's because in our videos we talk about
that.
It needs to be dry. Mm-hmm. If your bag is wet in any way, damp, whatever, it will stick to the other bags and you'll have that issue. So she's already doing one thing right.
So why is it still sticking?
Chances are she put the food in when it was still warm.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Could be. Or it could be the types of bags or your freezer. Now that would be like the bad news, because then the only fix is to stick some parchment paper, wax paper, tea towels, cardboard, whatever in between your bags, and that's not awesome. Somebody did recommend in the group, it's Gretchen, said, I place each bag in a grocery sack, let them freeze flat, and then remove them from the grocery sacks. It keeps them from sticking to one another. So that would be an option.
That's an option.
The parchment paper.
And people who use the parchment paper will reuse the parchment paper. Somebody else mentioned that they freeze it with the parchment paper in between, and then as they remove the parchment paper, they roll it up and put it in another freezer bag so that they can use it again next time, which works pretty good.
That's a smart tip.
That is a pretty smart tip. And another tip, to make sure that you're not putting anything warm into your bag, because that's going to cause condensation. That's going to be part of why it's getting wet even after you put it in your freezer. It's just going to attract that moisture. We say it all the time, do your prep one day, do your assembly the next day, and your stuff's going to be in your fridge overnight. Your ground beef's going to be totally cooled. Your meatballs or whatever you've made has been totally cooled.
Your rice, your pasta.
Everything. Now, we do put pasta in that we've just cooked, but we rinse it so that it's cool.
In cold water.
We rinse it in cold water. And so those things should help mitigate. And if it still sticks when you've done all the things, you gotta get a new freezer. I'm sorry to tell you.
No, use the parchment paper.
Use the parchment
cheaper
paper.
than getting a new freezer. But I have had my current freezers, I don't ever have an issue with sticking because we know to put things in cool and to wipe the bags down. But I have in the past had more issues. It wasn't bad. It was like once in a while it would happen. But that was with a freezer where that freezer had issues.
It had
with
frost issues.
Frost issues, yeah.
It wasn't a defrost freezer, like frost-free. That's what the word is, frost-free freezer, right? This recipe is that lady's chicken. It has been, we've been doing this as a freezer meal for a long time, and Charla has been eating it for years before that, so it is a good one. This is some borrowed footage from a previous session, because that's just the way it rolled on this one, and done is better than perfect. In our bag, we're gonna have some chicken. We're going to add in some Russian dressing. Now, Russian dressing has been harder and harder to find in the last year or two, and so sometimes we substitute Catalina dressing, and that's okay. Or if you are feeling very adventurous, you could find some decent recipes online that would be good substitutes. We're also going to add in some apricot jam, and a pack of dry onion soup mix. This is 5 ingredients or less, and it is done and it is fast. And it's actually really, really good as well. We're going to seal it up, get it into our freezer. On the day of cooking, you're just gonna add this one right to your crock pot, let that sucker cook up, and it has so much extra sauce, it's really nice to spoon onto the rice.
This chicken asparagus sheet pan is hopefully going to be another one we can add to our sheet pan collection after we try it. We've got our chicken thighs in the bags. We're gonna add some olive oil, salt, pepper, frozen asparagus, some quartered shallots, minced garlic, thyme, white wine, Dijon mustard, salt, and a cup of mixed olives that are pitted and drained. We're gonna get all the air out of that, get those in the freezer, and then on the day we go to make this, you're gonna thaw it, you're gonna dump the bag contents onto a parchment paper lined cookie sheet, and then you're gonna add a cup of baby or grape tomatoes, stir that to combine that into the sauce, and then bake it at 400 degrees. You can also broil it for just a minute or two at the end to give it some extra caramelization.
I'll be the one by your side through the good and the hard times, when we're laughing, when we're hurting. I'll be the one that you need through the love and tragedy, when we're winning, when we're losing. Take my hand, ooh, there's a better life ahead. Take my word, ooh, with you and me, there's a better life. There's a better life. There's a better life. There's a better life. I'll be the heart that's yours through the peace and dark wars, when we're loving, when we're fighting. Take my hand, ooh, there's a better life ahead. Take my word, ooh, with you and me, there's a better life. There's a better life. There's a better life. There's a better life.
These honey garlic chicken thighs, I have had a chance to have these since we made them. They are delicious. Into our bag, we're going to add some minced onion, some minced garlic, a bit of honey, some soy sauce, some sriracha, a bit of chicken broth, and some salt and pepper. We're gonna mix that all around right into the bag and then seal it up and get it into our freezer. When I cooked this one, I did take it out of the sauce. It does make a lot of sauce. You could cook it in the sauce or not, and I chose not to. I did mine on a sheet pan in the oven, but this would be a good one for the barbecue, and you could do this in the air fryer too, you know, since we're on an air fryer kick a little bit at our house. A great one to serve with some nice Asian vegetables and some rice.
Korean chicken is another new to us recipe, and I had to get Christy to go to a totally different grocery store to pick up one of the ingredients, and then to the liquor store to pick up another ingredient. So if you had to go to like 3 or more stores for a recipe, chances are it's going to have amazing flavors. We've discovered this in the past, so I have high hopes for this one. Into our large freezer bag, we've already got our chicken thighs because Christy had trimmed them at home the other night. Then we're going to add some low sodium soy sauce, some gochujang chili paste. I hope I'm saying that right. That's the ingredient we had to go to another store for. Some honey, brown sugar, sesame oil, and some rice wine, which is sake. And that's what we had to go to the liquor store for. Some ginger from a squeezy tube and minced garlic. After I added all these ingredients to the bag, I reread my recipe and realized that I was supposed to mix those together in a bowl and then pour half on the chicken and half in a quart size bag to, serve as a sauce after you cook your chicken. But I'd already done it. It was already in the bags and we did not have enough left over of those ingredients for me to do a redo. So we're just gonna have to test how it is, the way it is, and just make do. And as we always say, done is better than perfect. So for this one, you can cook it in a skillet, on the barbecue, or in the oven. And of course, if you did it properly and had some sauce reserved in a bag, then you would use that as a glaze or a dip. But we don't. However, because our sauce has all touched the raw chicken, we can't at the end put it on, but we could put some of that reserved sauce into a stovetop pot, heat it up so that any bacteria from the chicken would not be present, and then it would be safe to do it as a dip or a glaze. So we'll see. I have high hopes still for the flavors, and then next time maybe I'll make it properly.
This Jamaican jerk chicken was inspired and picked by Charla because she is going to go away with her husband for, it's with his work, but they're going to be going to Jamaica next month. So she was feeling a little bit in the Jamaican mood. And we've been making this one for a long time. It is really great in the barbecue. You can do it in a skillet, you can do it in the oven, but my preferred way is definitely in the barbecue. I have been to Jamaica and I did eat Jamaican jerk chicken on the beach, and to me that's the only way to eat this. So I'm just gonna have to go back. Maybe she will let me pack it up in her suitcase. To our bag of chicken thighs, we are going to add in some chopped green onion, some lime juice, some olive oil, some soy sauce, a bit of honey, and some Jamaican jerk seasoning. We find ours at Bulk Barn. I've also seen Jamaican jerk paste sometimes that you can find at specialty shops that have Caribbean ingredients, and that would work too. And you get all these into the bag and mix it around. Seal it up and freeze it. On the day of cooking, like I said, this is a fire to have on the barbecue. It is good in the skillet, it's great in the oven. All in all, it is just a really nice, spicy, awesome dish. Now, I'm gonna talk to you a minute about meat thermometers because we've been talking a lot about chicken, and chicken is fully cooked at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have a meat thermometer, you want to stick it into the thickest part of the chicken and don't let it touch any bone. I know all of ours are boneless, but if you don't want it to let it touch the bone. And if it's at like that 158 to 160 range, you can actually take it out then, if you're comfortable. So once you take it out, it will continue to rise. It will hit 165 and it will be totally safe to eat. It might still be a little bit pink, so if that makes you queasy, go ahead and cook it until it's fully not pink anymore. But I just wanted to mention that it is important to cook your chicken thoroughly and fully through, and I like to use a meat thermometer to do that.
So at the very beginning of the video, we were talking about how much the average American spends on eating out. And we know that it's so easy to fall into that takeout trap. Mm-hmm. We've done it too.
Yep.
And prior to freezer meals, I did it a lot.
Sometimes you just have to.
We did a little bit of research. Mm-hmm. If you skip one restaurant a week, you're going to save $500 a year per person. So
for a family of 4.
And that's not a restaurant. That's like fast food.
$10 a week.
Yeah. So this is a great way to save money. Like, it's the ultimate way to save on groceries because you can take full advantage of the sales because you can stock up, you can buy all the chicken, come home and actually make it, get it into your freezer. You don't have as much food waste because things are not going moldy in your crisper. You're actually using what you buy. You're not meal planning and then forgetting to make it or running out of time to make it.
Because it's just right there for you.
It's already done. And of course, you're saving on gas because you've got less trips to the store. You're not eating out, all those, so you're saving on the eating out as well. So there's just so many ways that you can save. So the reason I wanted to talk to you about this $500 a year thing per person is because the cost of our Freezer Meals 101 Club that will allow you to not have to hit the drive-thru ever, unless you want to.
Unless you want to.
Is 22 cents a day.
Really?
It's 22 cents a day if you purchase the annual membership. If you want to go the more expensive route and purchase the monthly membership, then your cost increases to 30 cents a day. It's like a little more painful.
I've never mapped it out that way. You could feed your whole family and save hundreds of dollars a year on 22 cents a day.
Yeah, so the average person in our club is, for a family of 4, is saving over $200 a month. Annually, that is thousands. And it's $79 a year or $9 a month. So join us on this side of things where we only eat out if we want to and if we can afford to. We're not doing it because we have to or because we're gonna eat popcorn for dinner or cereal for dinner if we don't. So yeah, just check it out. The link is in the description below.
The chicken in a mango cream sauce is Charlotte's all-time favorite freezer meal, and it is really delicious. Start out with your cooked cube chicken in your bag. Going to add in your thinly sliced purple onions, your bell pepper. Sometimes we use green bell pepper. Lately we've been kind of migrating towards red bell pepper, but this is an older video because it's part of the lost footage, and so it might be green in there, just so you know. Then we're going to add in minced garlic, some Madras curry paste, which is on the spicier side, but it isn't overpowering in this dish for sure. A couple of tablespoons of flour. And at this point you stop and you seal up your bag and give everything a good shake so that the flour is coating everything evenly, otherwise it ends up being a little bit lumpy and clumpy. Then we're going to add in some chicken broth, some tangerine juice, some evaporated milk, some mango chutney, and of course red chilies. Again, we're going to remove the excess air, seal up our bag, and get it into the freezer. On the day of cooking, this is a great one because it is so thin, it defrosts so fast, and it's so good to just get it into your skillet on your stovetop, make it nice and hot and bubbling, and you can just serve it with spaghetti.
This Spanish rice with chorizo is one that we had made when we did a video of meals for 2 people, because it's a great one because everything is already cooked to divide into quart-size bags. This time, of course, we are doing them in large bags for our families, but just letting you know, and you can go see that video there. It is a great resource if you're cooking for 2. And this recipe is included with lots of others and lots of great ideas over there. Into your large freezer bags, you're going to put some chorizo sausage that is sliced, some chopped onion, chopped red pepper, diced tomatoes that are drained. We discovered that the flavors in this were amazing, but it was a little bit too runny. So now that we've drained the diced tomatoes, it's gonna have the great flavor plus the right consistency, so we're excited about that. Some diced chilies from a can, chili powder, cumin, salt, pepper, and some cooked cooled rice. So this one, everything is already cooked. So on the day you go to make it, you can just reheat it in the skillet, the oven, or even in the microwave if you were doing a single or double portion.
This one pot chicken and mushroom pasta is like to die for. It is so good. We start it with our cooked cube chicken. We add it into the bag. On top of that, we're going to add sliced mushrooms, thinly sliced purple onion, some minced garlic, some heavy cream, some thyme and paprika, and salt and pepper. On the side, we are going to add some shredded Parmesan cheese. We're going to put that in a bag. Then we're going to remove the excess air from both bags, seal them up and staple them together. On the day of cooking, you're going to thaw it. You're going to add your big bag to a really deep skillet or a fairly large pot on your stove. You're going to add 4 cups of chicken broth because, as you noticed, we didn't really put much for moisture in besides the cream into the original part of the recipe. If you want to cook your pasta in this, you're going to need that chicken broth. You're going to bring it to a boil, and then you're going to add in your bow tie pasta, or maybe big shells would be nice. And then right before you are ready to serve it and your pasta is soft, you're going to add in about 4 cups of chopped spinach and really up your leafy greens factor here and make it super delicious and super healthy. You're going to sprinkle on that Parmesan cheese and give it a stir and serve it up.
We've officially arrived at the part of the day where I throw things in bags and give them names. This is otherwise known as inventing recipes on the fly. This one I decided to call Weird Soup because it does have some things in it that are not as common. So we're going to add some onions, diced carrots, red peppers. Then we're going to add sun-dried tomatoes, which isn't something I've ever added into a soup before, but we'll see. Some garlic, diced tomatoes, white wine, because we had that left over from the chicken asparagus sheet pan meal, and not really a wine drinker, so we weren't gonna drink it and I didn't wanna waste it. I really don't like wasting food, and that's why I invent these recipes with whatever prepped ingredients we have left at the end. And then we also had some chicken broth left, so we're throwing that in there, along with some Italian seasoning and a bay leaf. There you have it, weird soup, we'll see. And the last recipe I am inventing is kind of ragu-like. It is made with ground sausage that we had left over. And this is a real we'll see because I have no idea. I was taking some inspiration from, we have this chunky bolognese sauce that has quite a few vegetables in it. If I had had zucchini, I would have thrown that in here too, but I didn't. So into our bags, we're gonna put the rest of our ground sausage, again, spicy for our family and mild for Christie's. Then we're gonna add some diced onions, minced garlic, some diced carrots, red pepper flakes, and pasta sauce. That's it. We're gonna squish everything around to combine it, get the air out, seal it, and get 4 more meals into the freezer. And it's getting more difficult to get these meals stacked in those freezers, which tells us that we are close to the end.
Oh my goodness, after all the dancing and you saw the dancing, right? If you didn't, you have to go back into the busy part. There was dancing, there was prepping, there was assembling.
Lots of chatting.
Lots of chatting.
A
A little bit of complaining.
We are done. This is the end of day 2, and it is the end. Like
The end.
the end. I did cut out one recipe that I had planned on making. It didn't have meat, it didn't have prep involved. It was a vegetarian, like open cans kind of recipe. And I was just like, no, we have enough food. This is it. We're done.
We're done. The
Because
cans
we
can
made
wait.
Extras. And there were some inventions at the end, and so
Always.
we did end up, because of the extra ground beef, the extra salmon, and the inventions, we did end up with a new record.
Can we get a drum roll, please?
Oh, first, what was our old record?
Our old record was 153, which I complained about miserably because I didn't have room in my freezer and she just kept making more meals. But this time, our new record is 156!
Here we go, the big reveal, what you've been waiting for.
Wow!
Now, you're gonna take a trip with us over to the other freezer.
Ooh, to the hockey puck freezer. Let's go. Those, if you know, you know.
Let's check this freezer out.
Ta-da!
We don't have very much in here. Well, that's not true. We have quite a bit, but we also have a lot of Christmas baking. So you'll see it's a bit of a mess, but for those of you whose freezers aren't organized, it might help you feel a little better. So here you go.
Oh, you're gonna have to give us a tour because it's not always. So this is Christmas baking. This is sliders.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger sliders.
Holiday appetizers are under here, what I have left over.
Are these gougere?
Yes.
Oh, those are good. Dr. Pepper pulled pork.
And the pork tenderloin is from this time. This is holiday appetizers still.
Yeah.
And some
That's
of these
new.
are new. These
are all new.
And so we did need to use this second freezer, but it's not, well, it's bursting at the seams, but because I did a lot of holiday baking, I'm super, super happy with how this turned out. Okay, we're headed back to the kitchen. So check out the links below. You will find recipes, except for the recipes that we invented this time, because those we might have to tweak and play around with, and then the links will be there. But you will also find the links to that free cheat sheet on what freezes well. You can find a free cooking class down there, and you will also find the link to the Freezer Meals 101 Club, which of course is the easiest way to get your freezer to look like our freezer, because, you know, we've heard hashtag freezer goals.
That's true.
One thing I did think about after we were telling you about how to not get your bags to freeze together is if you have frozen things in the bag when it goes into the freezer. So, you know, if you're using frozen peas, frozen beans, that kind of thing, that can make it so that you get a little bit
The
of
condensation.
yeah. And so those ones can sometimes be an issue. I thought of it, of course, when we were making the chicken asparagus meal because we used frozen asparagus, and I was like, oh, that reminds me.
Yes.
So I don't want to forget to tell you that. Extra special thank you to my mom who came today and helped with dishes and helped with the baby yesterday. And we just could not do what we do without her and without our families. Thank you to you guys for watching, because we also couldn't do what we do without you.
That's right. And if we haven't said it already, which I don't think we have, please like and subscribe and hit the little bell. And so the next time we have a video come up, you'll be notified.
Thank you so much for joining us on this epic, super long video, and thanks for sticking with us. And
We'll see you next time.
happy cooking.
Happy cooking.